Because there was this one comment that I heard, and I was just like, well, what's wrong with that? They're like, he's a reformed hood, you know what?
I'm not reformed.
Question. Why is there a lack of Black ownership in streetwear and sneakers? I've been writing about fashion for the past 15 years, and I've always wondered, where are the Black people? No. But I've always wondered why so few Black people own businesses or brands that sell within the streetwear and sneaker space, which is a category that heavily depends on us, Black consumers and talent, to buy, promote, and create its products. So in 2021, I did explore this question in a story I wrote for Complex, and one of my sources was James Whitner, who really is a true anomaly in streetwear and sneakers. I say that because James Whitner is the founder and owner of the Whitaker Group, which operates a network in stores and spaces like A Ma Maniére, which you've probably heard of, Social Status, and APB. They focus on hospitality, streetwear, luxury fashion, sneakers, and community building. So I'm not trying to say that he's the only Black person who owns a multi-brand sneaker and streetwear store, but James owns 26 independently, meaning he hasn't taken on any outside investors or VC money, which is unheard of, particularly in fashion. And this year, he's doing it big. He's celebrating the 10-year anniversary of A Ma Maniére, his luxury banner. He's marking this occasion with a really ambitious rollout titled While You Were Sleeping, which includes a short film and an extensive collaboration with Nike. And when I say extensive, I mean 7 shoes across Jordan Brand, Converse, and Nike. And to contextualize this, which is what I'm here to do, this is Nike's second largest collaboration since Virgil Abloh's The 10. With his initiatives like Free Game, where he offers, you guessed it, free game, and his community involvement, James established himself as not only a successful entrepreneur, but a well-respected voice in matters of race, politics, and the upliftment of marginalized folks. But that image was disrupted in November 2023 when news broke that James had allegedly resold millions of dollars worth of sneakers to Chinese nationals and was engaged in money laundering, allegedly. I do want to note that he was never criminally convicted. But James is here today, and this is the first time he's spoken on record since the incident. I know you all have had lots of questions, and he has a lot to say. But we aren't just talking about the case. We're gonna explore the question I asked earlier and chat about his bold approach to storytelling and retail, it's quite bold, his strategy with design and collaboration, and the future, because he really is a visionary. Then we are going to break down why he prices his inline collection the way he does, because y'all always talk about that. And he's going to address some of the unfounded assertions that folks make about his brand online. This is Aria Hughes. I am the editor-in-chief of Complex, and I'm here asking James Whitner to please explain. I was just talking about how retail just doesn't seem to be doing that well, and particularly like sneaker retail. Like we've seen what's happening with Foot Locker. I see that Sneakers and Stuff is pulled out its US locations. Atmos is going away from its US locations. How are y'all doing?
I would first start off by not calling it retail.
Oh yeah, you hate that word.
Yeah, I think it undermines what it is those of us that are looking to do something different is actually doing. And I think those who haven't changed are probably having a bit of a tough time. And even some people who are making the adjustment or willing to make the adjustment, it's tough. Transition is tough. Overall, we're doing fine, but the economic environment is tough. It's actually really tough right now.
So there have been reports about the sneaker market downtrending. Or what do you say about that?
It's downtrending. I mean, if you, going back to the ecosystem conversation, right? Anytime, if you suck more of something out of something than you put in, nobody wants to be sold to.
Yes.
Everybody's willing to buy.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right? And you're willing to buy if somebody takes their time and romance a story.
Yeah.
Make sure it connects to you in a meaningful way, right? I mean, in the beginning, Nike was incredible at it. Adidas would run DMC, right? There was all these cultural connection points that we bought in on because it connected to us. That's not to be extracted from at a level that, like, the moment you take out more than you pour in, you're going to get the comment that you said.
Yeah.
We're at that point. But it's like, you can't blame any of the brands. We all just lived through COVID.
Yeah.
And I think some of the brands is getting, like specifically Nike, they're unfairly penalized because everybody's looking at like, oh, wow, they kept selling the same models. Is anybody saying like it was COVID? What the fuck else? What you think they was going to sell? Right? Like offices closed. Like what you think they going to design? Factories is closed. How you going to get new designs out?
Right.
Everybody has too much inventory.
Yeah.
Adi had the misfortune of the Yeezy situation, but it helped them reset their business early.
Yeah.
If you look at luxury is getting murdered outside of Hermes.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not just one company doing one bad thing. We've all collectively lived through the pandemic and we're all watching the world be rewired. And we're all participating in creating the next spark.
One thing that I feel like nobody's really talked about is the impact of the Adidas Yeezy sneakers being pulled from the market on retail. Can you talk about that?
Huge. I'll go back. I would go as far as saying that Yeezy with Nike started the uptick the way that MJ don't hear what I'm not saying. In '84, sneaker culture was born with Jordan 1, right? In my world. And some could say Run DMC, whatever. But for this generation, that Yeezy 1, like, that's when the bomb went off, right? And it continued into Adidas and it became a huge business for us. Like imagine what happens if somebody cuts a huge part of your salary and no one gives you a heads up. You kind of see it coming, like, oh, are they gonna do this? And then like boom. And even culture, right? I think the thing that Kanye meant to our business was creative freedom. Like he gave people were and are willing to explore and go to new places with him in a way they weren't willing to go to new places with a lot of people that we've seen in this generation.
It caused a lot of talk on the Sneakers podcast when you talked about what y'all spend to get rid of bots.
Yes. We spend $500,000 a launch. So we
if
can't
you
even,
have a Jordan brand project?
We can't launch Nike, Jordan, anything that's a project. We don't launch it. It costs $500,000 to hold bots out for 4 minutes.
Do you all feel like you distribute product in a fair and equitable way? And is there still the same type of investment that you mentioned when you were on the Sneakers podcast into whatever bots? I hear bots are less of a thing now. Or?
Yeah, bots are less of a thing, and shout out to Equal. You see, y'all got that shameless plug. Give us a discount.
What's Equal?
Like, there's been more businesses, services that come in to help build, like make it easier to pull these bots so you're not spending as much time, money, security, trying to get through orders the way you did now. I think like now with Equal and so many other services, through even Shopify's gotten better, right? So through Equal, Shopify, there's a lot more mechanisms to be able to serve people in a fair way, and we pride ourselves on it. And in the moments when we aren't, we had some blips, but it had nothing to do with us and everything else to do with outside factors.
So when I first spoke to James, it was 2016. I was working at WWD and I interviewed him over the phone. And I presumed that he was white with some flavor, which I laugh about now because he's the furthest thing from white. But I made that assumption because I've been covering retail for a bit and I was really confused as to why I had never heard of this Black man who owns this many streetwear and sneaker stores. And let's look at the history of retail that caters to young urban audiences. There's Jimmy Jazz, a tri-state staple that was owned by Jimmy Cresci. There's VIM, which was owned by brothers Joseph and Joseph and Elazar Joseph. And then there's Up Against the Wall, where I used to frequent, the Springfield Mall location. That was founded by husband and wife Izzy and Wendy Ezralson. So when you think about that, James is truly unique in being a Black man who is serving his own culture to his own community. And then if you come in from a macro space and look at what's happening with sneaker retail in general, it's condensing. James, in contrast, has been able to grow and evolve. And I think that's because he's not just focused on selling product, but he wants to offer an elevated experience for Black and brown consumers. So in this next segment, I really wanted to talk to him about what he thinks is the future of retail, which is a word that he hates, and also how he's been able to grow through such tumultuous circumstances. What do you think people get wrong when trying to target the Black customer?
I'm not biting my tongue. It's this idea that we're supposed to settle for less, right?
Yeah.
Or when doing it ourselves, we don't have the resources to bring our ideas to life, right? Most of our businesses are severely underfunded. So we may have big ideas, but can't actually get them out in the world, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a balance because when we serve us, because we don't have resources, we're putting together the best we can with what we got, a la greens, chitlins, right? And the idea of like oxtail being the thing, but it's a thing because it was a meal made out of poverty that we made into something, right? But we're never given like unlimited resources to go build something with no limits, right?
Yeah.
So what we're doing is trying to like, with our limited but kind of not limited resources, provide an experience that makes people say like, oh, shit, that's what they thinking about for real, right? And thankfully, I think with Beach, we got a lot of things right, and there's a lot of opportunities for us to grow in other ways, and you'll start to see that when we do other spaces.
Let's talk about that with much bigger. So I was able to experience A Ma Maniére Beach. Tell me about like what your goal is with that and building out these resort hospitality spaces.
I think it goes back to our overall like macro goal. It's just to create a meaningful Black experience. I think like when you start to think about like what we have that's ours, I mean, there's a ton, right? But I think there's an opportunity for this part of culture to center in and drive things that just aren't physical things. And it's more about creating meaningful experiences. So when I think about things that's dope that I like to do, staring out water is one of them, right? And then you start to back into that and ask yourself, where should it be? How should it feel, right? And then what can we afford? Like, how can we get into beta, start, get other people in, test our ideas, make sure we're right, and then be able to scale from there.
And you also, like, a part of your strategy has been, which I think has always been, like, incredibly smart, is opening up in secondary markets first and kind of, like, getting your sea legs. But you have plans to open in Harlem, which is obviously a major market. And it's just different from everything. So how have you changed your approach to how you want to build out retail in Harlem, this major market in New York City?
I don't think we changed our approach much because I think to the rest of America, Harlem is a subset. Harlem is uptown, right, to Manhattan's downtown, right? But for us, in the history of like Blackness, Harlem is meaningful. So for us, it's about, again, putting us on a map. It's Fifth Avenue downtown versus Fifth Avenue uptown. So we just want to like go back to the thought or the idea of the Black Renaissance and make, not that Harlem doesn't need us for relevance, but we want to go there to be a part of that history.
And you're opening A Ma Maniére in Harlem.
Yes, A Ma Maniére, flagship location, 5 stories, 8,000 square feet, full experience.
Yeah. I've always been interested in just your different retail banners. And like, logically, I get it. Like, it seems like you were at an age where you said, I no longer can shop at social status. I want a more elevated experience. But you don't see a lot of entrepreneurs who open spaces that are adjacent to retail. You don't see a lot of people say, okay, I want to have this banner that caters to an older customer and then this banner that caters to a young. I'm just curious what your thinking was and like how it's helped or hurt the business.
Well, first, it's knowing that in our world, you can't like peanut butter the whole globe. It's like, yo, people from Detroit want something different than people in Chicago, and they're still the Midwest.
Yeah.
I'm from Pittsburgh. Cleveland is very close, very similar, but different. That's all the Midwest, right? So when you start to think about all these people and places and geographies, and if you live the American Black experience, you understand the difference between all of the submarkets in the U.S. There are a lot of similarities and a lot of differences. So that was the first thought. The second thought is like just living out life. As you live out life, you quickly understand like you're very different at 13, 15, 18, 21, 30. Once you experience it, and I was in my 30s as we were creating separate banners, it was just about being intentional, saying like, hey, we need to do something different here. And this isn't right for this place. So because we know it isn't right, then what's the action that we should take? And the action clearly it was not to just do the same thing again. So we knew we needed to do something different. Did we do it perfect? No. But did it give us the ability to create different levers and to play in? Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to talk about APB because we don't talk about it a lot. But I love what you did with New Balance and just kind of targeting this young Black customer who's like a creator and wants to make podcasts. And it seems like you're also transitioning it to more skate.
For us, like skate is something that like, Black people always, we stand up culture in general.
Yeah.
We've had a point of view on skate. We just didn't have a position. Mm-hmm. So it was us saying like, nah, we're going to take a position. And once we take a position, we take a position.
Yeah.
So like, that's one part. The other part is willful bias. Mm. Less about APB, more about shaping the narrative.
Yeah.
Right? Like anything we do, we're not looking to just like copy and paste our logo onto things and say, hey, look at us.
Yeah.
It's really about like getting sharp in what part of Blackness this serves and hitting it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because the benefit of having multiple banners and being in a lot of places, but serving Blackness is we should be able to speak to it in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different tones, and look to set the mood and change the mood as we need to.
Why would you say the store is still important?
I mean, physical space is important because people have to discover.
Yeah.
Right? And I think like shelves are important for people to learn and discover. And it gives people like a space to come in and just, learn. I think the transaction, which like in the last like 5 years, like mid-pandemic, we all seen digital go crazy because it was like super transaction driven. Yeah. This business, no business can last on transaction alone. There has to be a real connection. Mm-hmm. Physical space helps with the real connection. Yeah. Right? And it sets the tone for a real connection. Mm-hmm. If you do it the right way, hence the experience, right? And being wrapped in purpose. Logically, retail is dying. Experience is flourishing.
Got it. So when you think back like 10, 15, 20 years ago, a lot of sneaker and streetwear storytelling campaigns used to primarily focus on Black athletes or Black celebrities. And that's not a surprise, like that strategy connects to a wide swath of consumers. But with the Whitaker Group, they focus on the Black human experience, whether that sheds light on a young man flipping food stamps to buy a pair of sneakers or the beauty of Black womanhood. I watch some of their short films, but whenever I watch them, I'm reminded of how often I don't see reflections that I'm familiar with in sneaker and streetwear storytelling. Like in the First and 15th series, they cast a Black queer woman named Dripped, played by DJ Fannie Mae, as the street OG.
It's all right, young man. I know you still learning. But today, I'm gonna teach you how to diversify your portfolio.
Or even their APB New Balance Missing Pieces campaign. You see young Black girls with fuzzy braids starting a podcast. And with While You Were Sleeping, their most recent short film and their most ambitious project to date, they are speaking about Black creativity and Black tax in a very cinematic way. I've always wondered, was James ever worried about how specific his storytelling is and if he's annoyed when y'all don't get it? So we talk about that and many other things in this segment. Yeah, I remember I asked you, I was like, what was y'all's biggest storytelling moment? And you sent me the Diadora in Brazil.
Yes.
When did you've always wanted to tell stories about the experience of marginalized folks. Has that always been the case though? Like when you started the business, were you always thinking like, this is how I want to tell stories? Because that doesn't typically happen in this space.
Well, I think there aren't people from where I'm from in the space.
Yeah.
It's like, I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
Like think about walking around the projects.
Yeah.
And like, this is not about me, but I am who I am. Mm-hmm. You like laugh and joke and tell stories, right? Like, and the idea of telling a good story is how you connect to people. Yeah. So I don't know any other way to connect to human beings outside of telling a good story, right? And if you're going to tell a good story, it should be a true story, right? And it should tell a story of people and how to push them ahead. I guess people can feel the stories are dark. I don't think they're dark though. I think it's reality, and people don't want to get into what's real because they want to live whatever it is that they live in or they think they should live.
Yes. So one thing that I was going to ask, and I see it with a lot of Black people in the space who tell stories about like Black existence beyond like celebrity and fame and champagne and all that. And there's this idea that, oh, they're pandering, or oh, they're playing the Black card, or oh, you don't look at comments and stuff, but have you heard that? Have you heard that criticism of like, he's trying to be the Black Messiah with his stories? Or
come live where I'm from. It's interesting because like, I get it. There's a huge percentage of Blackness that's third, fourth, fifth generation out the projects. Yeah. I'm still in my projects. right? Like my brother came home a month ago, right? So like, yo, the balance of what they might be living and what I'm living just looks different. And because I think it's easy to mistake in like being educated, being able to progress in business, having a point of view and being able to drive something for a long term, they may want to look at that part.
Yeah.
The part that I look at is the part that got me here.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm still that, although I'm also this.
Yes.
Right?
No, for sure. I want to talk about while you were sleeping because that speaks to that, and it also speaks to this black tax. Talk to me about the While You Were Sleeping campaign and what you were thinking. First off, what does while you were sleeping mean?
Everything you think it means.
I don't know what it means.
Like when you say while you were sleeping, there's all these like it's a infinite entendre and can mean tons and tons and tons of things.
Yeah.
For the purpose of the story, it's talking about black tax. But it's also talking about like, yo, think about that we've existed for 20 years, but somebody still thinks we're new. Think about what you just said about the comments, that we're pandering. How we pandering to our poverty? How's that possible?
Yeah.
Right? So it's about all the things. It's like, yo, we've been here in broad daylight talking about the same things. It's about the idea that you have to live in silence to exist meaningfully. Right? Like the biggest trick that the devil played on earth is to make him believe he didn't exist. Right? And for us, if we're gonna make moves, you gotta move almost silently or somebody will try to kill you. So it's all those things, right? But for the purpose of the top line of While You Were Sleeping, it's about black tax.
Talk about black tax.
Well, the technical definition of black tax, if you look at it as singular, is when you make it, right, needing to bring people along. I'm thinking about all the black taxes that we all have to, like taxes as a black woman, right? Taxes as just in general that we pay in society and through systemic ills that naturally exist. So we're just talking about those, but we're actualizing them through the CRA.
I mean, one thing that I also enjoy about your storytelling is not only how human it is, but there's not a reliance on black celebrity that we see with a lot of brands who shall go unnamed. Was that a purposeful thing? Like, I know you've worked with, like, I saw, like, T.I.'s been in a lookbook for Jordan y'all did early on, and Jim Jones. Has it been purposeful to not work with black celebrities?
It's been purposeful to make sure we tell the story in the most impactful way.
Okay.
When we done Tip, it's because Tip is in and out of A Ma Maniére constantly. And at that time, the studio was next to the store. So it made sense. When we done Jim, it's because I was sitting in Emery's office 2 or 3 days before. We end up having a conversation and he was like, let's do something. So within a week, we done something, right? So if it's not organic, we're not reaching. But our goal is to just be centered and making sure we tell our stories the right way.
Do you feel like sometimes, I mean, I already know the answer to this question, but I'll ask it. Are you ever worried about ostracizing an audience because your storytelling is so boldly black?
No. Why is it ever even a question when we're boldly black that we may be making someone else feel uncomfortable? How's that even a conversation? When we're marginalized in a way that, like, come on. Like,
but
for real?
Have you always felt like that? Like, have you had to grow into that, or you felt like that from the jump?
I probably had to take a lot of blows first. And I think once you start bleeding and you start tasting your blood, then you start realizing like, man, fuck this. Like, it is what it is, and I don't care how it look.
Yeah.
And I've been at that point now for a while.
Is your goal to be controversial with your storytelling?
No. Oh, Jesus help me. The goal's not to be controversial. Come where I'm from.
Yes.
Like, why do people want to water down like our black? Like, why do people want to like not think it is what it is?
Yeah.
Like when people seen Menace to Society and Boys in the Hood for the first time, they was like, oh my God. Like, why would you think like, yo, like not much has changed?
Yeah.
So why are people looking at like, oh, this person's so, well, I don't know if I dress nicely, but
you are.
move and progress in business a certain way.
Yeah.
What do you think that I'm supposed to talk about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's not who I am.
Yeah.
So it's less about controversy and it's more about real life for the rest of the people who haven't made it out the struggle. And that's a huge percentage of black folks.
Yeah. But do you think there's anybody telling stories that it's inspiring you? Like, what do you think about how other people are telling stories?
Well, it's loaded because I'm only paying attention to certain people's stories.
Okay.
Like, the way my algorithm's set up
Yes.
is I watch what I care about.
Yes.
Right? So no shade to people who this is not a call to like, yo, but obviously I'm paying attention to J Tips and Joe.
Okay.
Because like, yo, it's experiences that like, yo, they from where I'm from. If you sit down and you talk to them and you talk to Jay and you go around his way. You talk to Joe and you go around his way. It's real.
Yeah.
There ain't no, you know what I'm saying? I think if you look at rappers or
Yeah.
musicians or people who have done movies, like you look at Hype Williams
Yep.
and how he's displayed blackness. You look at Jay-Z and look at how he's spoken and made us visualize his story through blackness. To me, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not looking at...
Understood. But I love that you brought up Joe and J Tips. I mean, because there was a time, okay, when you did that Recess ad, and you both had an ad where there was a car and someone selling sneakers out the trunk or giving out sneakers out the trunk. And I love that there was that connection. But still, I do think y'all have different approaches.
Yeah.
You even said it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, we have different lives.
Yeah.
It's not like, it's nothing about black is monolithic.
Yes.
And Joe's approach to the world, although we're similar in a lot of ways when we sit and talk, but we're still very different in a lot of ways. He's from Chicago, I'm from Pittsburgh, right? Like, yo, there's tons of things that are different. And if you're paying attention to the nuance of the stories, it comes out.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
But if you also looking, there's tons of similarities.
Yeah, no, for sure. I agree with that. It's come up before because your narratives, they're heavy and they're loaded. And yeah, you clearly are trying to impart something. How translatable do you want the story to be?
To who?
Whoever it's intended for.
To the audience that it's intended for.
Yeah.
They get it.
Yeah.
For everyone else is to educate.
Okay.
We gotta tiptoe around their privilege every day.
Yeah.
So why am I supposed to shape my story to their privilege too?
Right.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Are you annoyed when people don't understand the stories that you're trying to tell?
Yes. More annoyed when they create their own stories.
Yes.
But goddamn, let us get our story out.
But one thing that I've noticed, it's like y'all tell these beautiful, rich, distinct stories, and I never see them on Nike's social channels. Why is that, Nike?
It's interesting because I think in a marriage, you know, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm in a bad marriage because I love our partnership.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But there's always spaces where you like, what we like to see our stories be amplified. Yeah, we would. I think our voice is a stronger voice leading the stories for sure.
Yeah.
But no, we would love the amplification of our voices. And also, like, I do think that there's something that's interesting about all the shades of black.
Yep.
Where is shade of black that makes people uncomfortable? I'm comfortable with that. But how many others are? Right? And I think there's a large fashion of people at Nike who understand exactly who we are and want us to be who we are. And I think there are people in America also at Nike and they can't understand. So that's not a Nike thing. It's an American thing, right? And the things that we're talking about are real, rich, deep, black things, right? It has a way of making people uncomfortable in ways that they don't even understand are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I stand on our partnership. I stand on our marriage. It's a happy marriage. But yeah, there's opportunity for us to like, this is still the beginning, even though it feels like we've been going for so long. Yeah. Like there's so much opportunity for us to like do crazy shit, hence why you were sleeping and all the things that we got planned forward. So I think it's gonna get interesting.
So I know this is a segment a lot of y'all just skip to. Shame on you. But anyways, it's kind of crazy how James's storytelling really centered on what it means to be black in America, and then James became the story last November when news broke that he was allegedly involved in money laundering. And it really speaks to the black tax that we talked about just most recently and the scrutiny you were under when you were black, successful, and have a criminal past. I also spent a lot of time looking at y'all's comments, listening to y'all's spaces, and it's just kind of wild how Black people criticize Black designers and business owners so harshly, but don't have the same energy for the corporations who hold the most power, influence, and resources. So for this segment, we talk about the case, yes, what y'all want to hear about, but we also talk about what it's like to be Black and navigate this industry, and what is James's biggest fight right now.
Did you watch the DNC the other night? Michelle Obama, Barack Obama.
Yes.
Now, I'll let you go. Did you hear Michelle's comments about being all the things, then being Black?
Yes, because she was like, so-and-so who just happens to be Black.
Yes,
Yep.
perfectly said and perfectly timed.
I
Most
agree.
people don't get that.
No, I agree. But why is that important to you?
Well, on this side, right?
What's this side?
Well, this is the
Corporate James?
This is the. I wouldn't say I'm never, never, never corporate.
Entrepreneur James.
The entrepreneurial,
Yeah.
progressive James.
Yep.
Versus what they would call me at home, right?
Yep.
James is definitely all the things.
Yeah.
Smart, thoughtful, intentional, sometimes strategic.
Yep.
I think the other side of me is desperate, sad.
Why are you sad? Because of the state of the world and our people?
Yeah, when you just don't see people winning at the scale you think they should win at. Like, y'all see success here, and I see like an impact here.
Yeah.
So it's like for every 20 steps we get here, I'm still looking here, and I'm like, damn, ain't no movement.
Yeah.
And I'm in both,
Yes.
right? And I'm literally trying to affect both in real time. So when you don't see the movement, like, yo, that shit starts to sting, yo.
Do you feel a level of guilt for making it?
Hell yeah. Because some people don't know that they don't know. Some people don't even aware how disconnected they are from trying to really get it out because, like, yo, they didn't get the education or they've been busted or they, they're glued. If you know what glued means, right? So it's like, how could I not feel guilty? These is my real friends.
Yeah.
Like, these is the people, like, people talk about, like, being in the mud with folks. Like, yo, I'm here, they're there, I'm still in both places. And we got to get comfortable with people being in both places. Like, why aren't we supposed to go back and take care of ours?
Yeah. Because there was this one comment that I heard, and I was just like, well, what's wrong with that? They were like, he's a reformed hood, you know what?
I'm not reformed.
What you mean you're not reformed?
That's the catch, though. Like, what does that mean? Because if I was reformed, I wouldn't have no fire. I'd be somewhere sitting around chilling, taking the money they offer me. That's reformed.
Yeah. I think they meant by reform, they meant you've made a better life out of your circumstances. That's how they view it.
Well, I view it the other way.
Okay.
I view that there still are millions of people with my previous circumstances. And I'm more focused on that than this. Everybody outside that got an education and have access to education can fight against the uphill battle we all got to fight. Those who are still glued, come on, man.
Yeah.
And got families that are glued and been living in poverty for generations. What about those people? You know what I'm saying? Or what about those parts of the country? People don't want to go around there.
Yeah. And I've heard you say before numerous times, like, you had to be comfortable being the hood guy.
Yeah.
But also, like, I'm not from the hood, but I still find it sometimes difficult or just tiring to just, like, navigate workspaces sometimes. And you're navigating very corporate spaces.
Yeah.
How do you think you've been able to do that? Because you've done it successfully.
First, thank you. Second is I don't hide.
Okay.
I say it. Like, coming in the door, all the things. Like, yo, if something's going on with me, you be the first person to know. Like, I ain't going, you're never going to get blindsided. You're going to always know what I'm thinking, right? And why. But at the same time.
But why do you feel comfortable doing that?
Because I need to get shit done.
But letting people know what you're always thinking.
I don't have the resources to waste time.
Okay.
So I'd rather come in and like, yo, listen, like, this is what I need, A, B, C, D. How fast can we get it done?
Yeah.
That's not fast enough. Why? Here's another solution to get it done faster. Can you help me understand why we can't get here? Well, can you help me understand your strategy so I can merge it to our strategy to help us both move faster?
But you're talking about work. I'm talking about personal opinions. in these corporate spaces.
Oh, I don't give a fuck about them. People in corporate spaces probably are very, now let me be more candid. People in corporate spaces probably aren't that comfortable with how I move. And some probably have a bit of a, use a word. They feel that way, right?
Because you move in such a confident, pointed manner?
I can't let their insecurities affect my confidence or what I need to get done. I'm not tiptoeing around nobody's privilege, if you white or black. So if you black and you feel like I shouldn't be this bold, shame on you. And if you white and you nervous, shame on you. I got shit to get done.
Yeah.
And it's less about me, it's more about like, yo, ain't nothing moving over here. Like, yo, everybody's sitting over here and rent's getting paid and checks is coming in and they get 401ks and bonuses and shit. Over here, ain't no motion.
Yeah.
Like, yo.
Yeah.
What we getting after?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm not about to no, I'm good.
And you're completely comfortable with that.
No fucks given.
I admire that, because I'm the opposite.
That's the larger problem with the 40, 50 million of us that's here. They've made us feel like we need to make them comfortable.
But for many people, and maybe, I don't know if it's because you are an entrepreneur, you have your own business, and I know you have to have these strategic partnerships to grow, but for many people, including like specifically Black women, it's like you do get ahead in many ways by making people feel comfortable.
Check, but leaders are bold.
Yeah.
And the leaders that we want to follow are bold. And the same people that are leading these large organizations, they're bold visionaries who understand they need to be around other bold visionaries to move anything.
Yeah.
And it has to be wrapped in a meaningful why and purpose.
Yeah.
If not, what you here for?
Right.
Right? And that's gonna cause some discomfort. And that's the thing. Like, we gotta get comfortable. Like, yo, sometimes you don't fit. And sometimes we as Black folks wanna fit just to make a living. And yes, we have to make a living.
Yes.
But we also gotta be intentional and be thoughtful about why we're doing what we're doing and what we wanna affect.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yes. So let's talk about the case.
Yes.
So the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District Court of North Carolina filed a complaint alleging that you were reselling product to a Chinese nationalist between 2017 and 2022, and that the money exchange, which they say was more than $32 million, was connected to drug trafficking. What can you tell us about what happened?
The Whitaker Group,
Yep.
in their minds, was a part of, potentially, right, because it's an investigation, so
Yes.
let's be fair,
Yes.
potentially a part of a drug organization.
Yes.
So there's that.
Which is false.
Well, are we?
No.
Do you do what I do every day? My accountant said to me, I'd never been around somebody so long that would have to work so hard to hide breaking the law.
So when did you first find out that you were being investigated, and how did you feel?
I found out, well, I always thought that there was a level of something going on. Because even to me, our business was kind of crazy. Like at some point, the business started growing and you're like, this is crazy as shit.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like watching it all happen. And knowing like for years, like we didn't, I learned the business as I grew through the business. So we didn't have like real banking relationships. Our banking relationships at that time was just like me depositing money in a bank.
Yes.
Right? Because it was a mechanism.
Yes.
Not actually having a relationship of the things that you can do with the bank. The reason I mentioned the bank is that's how we formally found out. I said this to my attorney when he would say, they can do this. And my answer was always, the facts is the facts.
Yeah.
Like at some point in my life, I broke the law. So I know what that looks like.
Yeah.
The last 20 years of my life, I've lived my life not breaking the law. I know what this looks like. And I'm willing to bet it on whatever.
The facts can be the facts, and people can still be wrongfully accused of something or wrongfully convicted. So that didn't stress you out at all?
No, I was okay with it. To the point where I had to look my son and daughter in the eye, because it's different. When you standing on something, it really only affects your family.
Yeah.
Other people love you. It affect them too. But once I was able to look both of my kids in the eye and say, hey, listen, this is about to happen. this is what people are going to say, and this is what really happened.
Yeah.
And the noise can engulf them too.
Yeah.
And I think in some of it, they may not say nothing to me now, but years, I'm sure it may have engulfed them in a way too, right? But like, nah, I was willing to stand on it.
The investigation's been going on for a while. How did it impact business?
What I didn't think about until as we sat here because it didn't affect me any. Like people are like, oh my God, are you happy? Like, how do you feel? And I'm like, I don't feel nothing. I always feel like I'm under a magnifying glass. Like nothing's been easy per se.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're fighting with somebody about something every day.
Yes.
So another fight is like, oh, story of my life. Let's get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
there's something about that that's a little bit sad, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's another story, another day. But it's part of the Black experience, right? We ain't getting no credit for that.
Yeah.
But the thing I didn't realize is the noise around us. Like, because I'm not a person who much cares about what people in our industry think about me. Like, we serve what we serve. But it's interesting how the news came out and people either, I don't want to jump out there and just make it negative, like almost preying on your downfall.
I mean, I don't think people were preying on your downfall, but I do think people like to bring people down to size.
Yeah, yes. So for me, it was like, well, my mom always said, the same people you see coming up,
Yes.
you see going down.
Yes.
So live in humility.
Yes.
So I try to keep it at, you'll never know how high or low I am.
Yes.
Based on how I carry people, because I try to carry people the same regardless.
Yes.
Based on that, right?
Yes.
But it was humbling to see people care more about that investigation story than anything we've ever done.
Yeah, because I remember I talked to you once the news came out and you were just like, we've done so much, and you've done so much, you've contributed so much, and nothing has gotten as much news and attention as this investigation.
Yeah, to see my face everywhere.
Yeah.
On that,
Yeah.
I was like, that stung.
What did you think of the coverage?
Oh man, I always knew how they felt, but to see it in real time was just validating, right? And it's like you hear all the people in the whispers. You see it, you hear it all. So the only thing I was curious to see was people who I didn't think would react that way or look or say some BS. And there were some ones that were shocking, and I won't call nobody out, but.
What were you shocked by? The fact that they believed that you did something wrong and what were you shocked by?
Oh, no. I think America's infatuated with like ups and downs, like scandal. America's infatuated with scandal. Yeah. So I give the world grace. People love scandal.
Yeah.
But I think there were people who just wanted our purpose, to get shot down. Less about me, more about our purpose.
No, I agree with that.
Does that make sense? No different than DEI. It was like, oh, see, that's not this. Yeah. So for me, it was like, all right. I'm saying that's why I don't know if I have been silent, but.
You have.
Yeah.
You're talking now for the first time on camera.
So there's that.
So I guess what most people want to know was, were you backdooring?
There's a difference between resale, StockX, and the breadth of our business.
Yes.
The breadth of our business is about inventory management. So if you're looking for what was being sold, check out off-season. Our goal with off-season and everything that we do at off-season, it's about inventory management. Again, check out off-season. If you check out off-season one time, you'll very quickly see what I'm talking about. So yes, this is a shameless off-season plug. So find one and then you'll figure it out. It's goods that we need to get through to keep our inventory healthy.
And you have one off-season in Charlotte.
Yeah, there was just 7. We opened them seasonally around the country.
Got it. Okay.
So we went from, I think, 5 to 3, and then now we condensed it to 1.
Okay.
And we'll go back out and continue to expand.
Got it.
But it's just us growing, learning, and creating infrastructure for it. And we weren't reselling goods.
Yes.
Or reselling any product that people wanted. Exactly the opposite.
Yes.
It was a bunch of things that no one wanted, not centered in Nike. People said, well, if he does something wrong, why Nike shut him down?
Yeah.
Like sometimes just read the room, bro.
and the case is done.
It's over.
Do you feel vindicated? How do you feel?
I feel like I'm Black in America.
Okay.
I'm gonna feel the same way before it as I did after it. Don't move me none.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna still be viewed the same way regardless. Nothing changes.
Yeah.
The same people who had emotions around us being charged, they may be silent majority. They're gonna still be who they were. They just gonna be silent about it. And the people who rode with us is gonna keep riding with us. Nothing changes for me. It's operating in our skin.
I remember once reading one IG caption you had, and you were like, I've become numb to bad things happening and da-da-da-da-da. Have you?
Yeah.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
It's a normal thing.
It's normal not to feel?
It's normal to operate in a space where if you let the feelings get to you, it'll shake you.
Okay.
Well, it's normal for the American Black experience, at least the one that I live in.
Do you feel like, because this came up when you made a very bold statement when the story was written about Kirby of Pierre Moss.
Yeah.
And I see it a lot, and I've talked to Black designers about it a lot, and just like this idea that you're criticized more, and probably more from like people who look like you.
Yeah.
Do you sense that? Do you feel that?
Yeah. And the thing that makes me mad is, what's my man's name that owned Fanatics?
Michael Rubin,
He was on something recently.
Breakfast Club.
Yeah, we like black on black crime.
Yes.
I don't do no black on black crime. And you ain't gonna do it around me.
Yeah.
Like, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Like, so that was on my feed, so I commented. Like, we're not about to persecute no Black man in the media. Nah, not in our industry. Not one that I got a voice in. You could do it somewhere else, right? I'm sure I'm not the police, but we just should not do that to each other.
Yeah.
Like, going back to the comment around any community, like, yo, how ain't we standing with each other at all times? And if we got a problem, we got to solve it on our own. And does that mean everybody is going to be the greatest at being a nice person, or potentially whatever they were saying Kirby was doing? I don't know what they were saying, but how many white designers done burnt other designers?
Yeah.
It happens every day in business.
Yeah.
And they ain't on the cover of no damn magazine, cause stop.
What has been your, because I remember at one point it was like a fight to get luxury brands to align with A Ma Maniére. What do you feel like is your biggest fight now?
That's a really good question. I think our biggest fight is with us, going off the last question. The Black community won't validate itself. And we're invested in us. But if there's no belief in us, then what are we really doing? Does that make sense? Like, we can't be so quick to beat each other up. We can't be so quick to tear each other down. We can't be so quick to not support one another. Like, yo, if we just supported each other's businesses, like at macro, like, yo, the whole game changes for all of us.
I was watching Complex's Sneaker of the Year panel from 2022, and this was the year that the A Ma Maniére Air Jordan 4 Violet Ore was released. And Vashti, a panelist, said it looks vintage and future at the same time.
You gotta feel the inside of this.
We gotta get a photo.
You gotta put me with James, man.
It looks vintage and it looks future at the same time.
Love.
Jay, we gotta hook that up.
Yeah, man.
And I think that's a great way to describe product from the Whitaker Group. There's something that feels very familiar about them, and granted they are working with mostly retro silhouettes, but he and his team always push it forward with color and material choices, but then pay reverence to the original design. So when you see a sneaker made by the Whitaker Group, the storytelling from the box, the sneaker to the sock liner, it feels very considered and complete, and Black. His tags on the Jordan silhouette say, inspired by street culture, fashion, and the greatest athlete of all time. And I mean, that's just such an emphatic statement. So design is a subject that James doesn't talk about often, but I had a few questions about what he's created over the past few years and how he approaches it. You don't like to talk about design a lot, and you don't. How do you approach design with a brand? We could talk about Nike. Like, what is your goal, strategy?
The number one filter is taste. Number two is connection. Third is being super sharp about who you serving and why.
Okay.
And I think, I don't talk about design because, like, yo, shout out to Black culture. Like, yo, we got taste as a collective. Like, yo, as a collective core, like, we're dope as shit, right? So I'm just a subset of everything that we are. And I get the privilege to have a point of view on things.
Like, are you trend forecasting in any way? Are you looking what people are wearing and like thinking ahead? Like,
I mean, all of that is a part of taste.
Yeah.
Right? It's like when you put your clothes on, you look in the mirror to make sure what you thought this was gonna look like, it actually looks like. So yeah, you putting that, and I'm outside, so you looking at who you want to serve and why, and making sure that it makes sense and making sure that you're ahead. Like, we're not looking to serve the masses. Yeah. We're looking to serve our core audience, and they're already a bit forward. So sometimes you want to take them to a place they've been, but it just depends what we're creating and what the filters are for what we're creating.
Yeah.
Right? So for us, it's like, Salehi's an industrial designer. So he's the biggest winner, right? That dude can create a shoe from scratch. Most others are just tinkering. Right? So because someone goes to school for industrial design, that is the person that's a designer to me.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm not about to sit in that realm and disrespect those people who done 2, 4, 6, 8 years to get that degree to be that. I'm not a designer. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
I'm a person that has taste and an eye and an understanding of where people want to be and why.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
You've already said you're not a designer.
No, I'm not.
But you're very hands-on in the process. Please let these people know.
People. We're very hands-on in the process. We sit in design meetings and riff and go back and forth through rounds and rounds and rounds of samples. I'm not going to sit here and talk about that. Come on, really?
Yeah.
You know what it is? That's the internet, though. That's what happens when the internet gets in your way. You're supposed to sit there and just talk about like all the things. Like, oh, look at my hair. It's black. I have it. It's all hair.
You were stupid.
Like, yo, miss me. Like, stop.
Well, a lot of this show is reacting to the internet and adding context to the internet.
Yes, we got motion. I just had a context.
Okay, so you've obviously have been working with Nike for a little bit now. How are they determining what silhouettes?
It's a balance. Okay. It's what's important to us, what's important to brand, strategic intent. Initially, it started with 10 or 12 shoes and got down to 7. Like 6 is what the world's seeing.
Yes.
7 is what the world will see.
Yeah.
But there were others that were a part of the package that just didn't make the cut.
I see.
And for a lot of reasons. It could be like, tons of reasons.
Like back end stuff, or it just didn't look how you wanted it to look? Or
Capacity.
Yeah.
Just strategic intent.
Yeah.
Like just being different. Like shout out to Virgil. He had a 10. Do you need to do 10 because he done 10?
Yeah.
And you don't want to just be so cliche, right? You want to do something that makes sense for you and why. And I think what we put out to the world has been about why you were sleeping in A Ma Maniére and nothing else.
Yeah.
Right? Very different than what Virgil done.
Yes. I love the mauve colorway that y'all have kind of created as your signature. How did that develop?
Jordan 3 project. And we were looking at the back panel of the 3. Shout out to Iz, who's worked on a lot of Jordan stuff with us. And Iz, if you know, is annoyingly pesky about pushing things. And if you know me, when it comes to A Ma Maniére, it's timeless, classic, luxurious, right?
Yeah.
So it works because Iz is going to push. It's a dogfight for where we're going to land.
Yeah.
So we were looking for colors that were like soft, but not feminine.
Yeah.
Right? But definitely accepting to women, but still men. Like you talk a lot about Cameron's pink.
Yep.
Right? And there's all these colors that like, well, you'll laugh. It's Easter colors.
Yes.
when you think about them, right?
Yes.
It's light colors that in Black culture we've always championed, but not taking like Easter blue or Easter pink, but finding hues that make sense because like, yo, who else buy clothes the way we do on Easter growing up?
You sure that's going to be the third pair you wear out of everything on Easter?
Listen, he said Easter. God damn.
Easter.
Easter's a beautiful
You love Easter.
day.
You love Easter.
If we go on Easter,
you love
if we
Easter.
go on Easter,
Is this a number 3 sneaker to go to for Easter? Like, what are we talking about? How we gauging this? What's the criteria? Like, how we gauging this?
Clarky, I gotta leave.
Wait, are you wearing them on Easter?
What? These?
Yeah.
Them shit's a plum. They beautiful. I would wear them on Easter.
Right?
I
if
love
you think
that.
about it that way. And
Yeah.
I've never thought about it that way out loud, but yeah, think about it like that.
That's cool. Like, I love that, actually. And speaking of women and you trying to find a color that kind of was soft but not too feminine, I mean, you have been very, like, in a way that, and I could be wrong, but in a way that I just haven't seen from men in the space who make sneakers, like, targeting women, but in a way that doesn't feel, what do they used to call it, shrinking pink?
Yeah.
Yeah, and also just, like, honoring Black womanhood, and then also women's sizing. How did you come to that?
Well, first, Black women are the shit to me.
Okay.
Right?
Yes. Okay.
Second, it was just about like women like starting, like shout out to Jordan Brand, because coming in with us, starting, they were like, yo, women is important.
Okay.
We want women to be,
Yeah.
well, they first asked the question. They didn't impose it on me. Like, hey, like, is like women important? And I kind of looked like, yo, the first story was raised by women.
Yes.
Right? And that
love
was
that story,
that was
yeah.
literally what I said next. Hence it being the first story. And it's been like the thinking across the board. Like we share taste. We share things when they're done well. So just do things well.
I love that. Is there a particular silhouette that you have not touched yet that you really want to?
I mean, specifically from Jordan?
Or Nike, or Converse, or whatever.
There are specific things that we want to do that we haven't done yet. But I could rattle off. They're all like pie in the sky. But yeah.
Can you say one?
Yeah, I want to like, but it's more like it's more like city planning.
Oh.
Like it's like
Okay.
No, in the sneaker world, yeah, there's tons of things that we want to do.
I love how you don't like talking about sneakers.
Well, it's not that I don't like talking about sneakers, but it's why are we doing the sneakers?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's no different than why I don't like talking about design. There's tons of people online that can talk about the leather and the tone. Like that's not like, yo, I can sit here and tell you about every design meeting that we sat in for every shoe.
Yeah.
That ain't fun. Definitely not for me. I want to talk about the island that I want to create or the small country or like, yo, there's tons of things I want to talk about that don't have anything to do with a sneaker.
Okay. Can we? Because I know people are going to ask about what you're wearing. I know if you don't want to. I know.
Oh, no, we can.
Yeah, let's talk about what sneaker you're wearing.
This has been a pet project for myself, Cab, and Iz. If you remember the Air Force One that we done
The Friends
in
and
2019.
Family? Yeah.
So initially, when we done the initial A Ma Maniére 3, we were playing with the idea of doing a hand wash cold 3. So these are the hand wash cold AJ3s. And at some point, if you remember hand wash cold from the Air Force One project,
Yes.
we'll stand them up on these the same way. But it's really just about creating something that's like this, all black. That
It's really nice.
You gotta handle with care. The intent is for it to be really rich.
Yeah.
And it goes with the purpose side of A Ma Maniére is
Yes.
hand wash cold.
Yes.
And these are that.
But are these going to be friends and family?
They will be not very accessible.
Okay. So can you break down why the A Ma Maniére varsity jacket was priced the way it was priced?
A year of development, made in Italy, all Italian fabric, 50 pieces.
Got it.
The end. And the goal for the varsity jacket was not for it to be like something it's an expression of, if you made the high school varsity team, you got a varsity jacket.
Yeah.
Every
Yeah,
year,
yeah,
12
yeah.
people made the team.
Yeah.
Right? So the idea is, it's a legacy piece.
Yeah.
We're not making new varsity jackets every season.
Right.
It's something that we wanted to do to, actually, we're not done with the exercise. Even like just embroider people's names on it.
Yeah.
And it to mean something for the people who got them.
Yeah.
So everything, like we got t-shirts that are $30,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
there's price points in, but there's also some things that are just about creating dope shit. Even if you start to look at access for what we're doing with Experience, people are going to be upset because there's not a ton of access for beach. As we launch other places, there won't be a ton of access. Everything can't be for everybody, although we do invite everyone into everything that we do with purpose, right? But there's some experiences that are just nearly impossible to get everybody in on.
Yeah.
Everybody won't get a hand wash free. So there's highs and lows, right? And I think we all understand that.
So, to bring things back to the first complex story I mentioned when I tried to answer why is there a lack of Black ownership in streetwear, I wanted to reference a quote from James where he's talking about larger corporations acquiring Black brands. He says, and listen, we all can't be expected to be the same, right? You can't be mad at somebody for taking the money, but then we can't be mad when we don't have any Black brands long term. So James has been building this business independently for a while, and oftentimes when people build these businesses up, the goal is to eventually sell. Like if you look at Atmos, a Japanese sneaker chain, they sold to Foot Locker in 2021 for $360 million. Or if you look at something like a Rockerwear, Jay-Z sold that to Iconics in March 2007 for $204 million. So I've always been curious, knowing how strongly he feels about Black ownership, what are his plans for acquisition? So we talk about what he sees as the future of his company, if that means being acquired by a larger business, and how big he wants the Whitaker Group to be.
Infinite. Shit, I like the Whitaker Group to be a country. Like what you think I'm gonna say? Right? Like, yo, the idea of ecosystem is a real thing for me. Like a grocery store, a farm, a school.
Yeah.
Like a full working ecosystem.
Yeah.
Like culture and humans like are incredible. So what happens if we all start to build? It doesn't need to be termed the Whitaker Group. All we're doing is working with an ecosystem that we all should exist in. Right now we're present in New York. We could change this to be that.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. You know, one thing that I emphasize in the intro to this is how you have built this amazing business independently. But have you thought about suitors who might want to acquire portions of your business? Like, do you think about that?
When we need more money, yeah. Like when I'm sitting there thinking of an idea and know I'm $200 million short, then it's like, oh, all right, you could do this to get that. And I listen to the conversations, but inevitably we giving up the control. Like there aren't Black businesses because we sell them.
Yeah.
Right? So the balance is, how do we meaningfully capitalize ourselves while helping push purpose and culture forward and like creating a meaningful Black ecosystem so others like us can exist? Then it makes it easier on us and the burden on us isn't so high, right?
But is that a bad thing to sell your business?
I mean, it just depends how you look at it, right? It depends on the outcome that I would get from being capitalized.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, if the outcome is there's no longer a position in this industry and we go away, then absolutely. That's not something that I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
But if the outcome is that we could grow something to be as impactful as Apple, then yeah, as long as it's still Black owned, yes.
Have you ever seen a Black person sell their business to a larger corporation and still maintain like impact, influence, and creating like a Black, or just an ecosystem?
Yeah, we watched Jay do it. He still got Rock Nation, like pieces and parts. Is anybody like, yo, no pun intended, he's writing a blueprint.
I probably know the answer, but do you feel like you have had to sacrifice any part of yourself in order to make it?
I would say this is who I am.
Yeah.
Because I think coming up, it's the desperation to make it. Because I think in order to survive what we came up in, you got to see the idea that you might not make it to yourself, right? And I think once I got past the point where I thought I couldn't make it in, and then you just get through some horrible shit in life, then you start saying like, okay, next part of my life is going to just be about doing whatever it takes to build something that's meaningful. And I said that when I came home, and I'm 20 years past that now. So now I realize like, yeah, there's tons that I sacrifice. My kids, and I think I spend a ton of time with them. But Jaden would say differently that there may be times when she wanted more from me, but I was giving it to this.
Yeah.
Even though I feel like I already give a ton to her.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. How do you think everyone can help with there being more Black ownership and like supporting this ecosystem that you want to create?
Support us first. The end. Like be intentional. Like, oh, is this, like people say like, yo, buy black. It's a real thing. Like obviously buy your taste, buy quality, buy all the things, but look at those filters. Like if you're dressed nice. So if you're looking at shirts, look at the filters of color and the material, and then look for a black designer that does that. And then if you understand they do it well, talk to other people about it.
Yeah.
Right? I think we have to do a better job at just doing step one.
Yeah.
Making us top of mind for us. Because if that's true, then when they look at us, then everything changes. Right? When you can pull us apart, and we start going to go support everybody else, but not us, and we're validating everyone else. And then we ask ourselves the question, why ain't there enough of us? Because we're mortgaging ourselves to them.
Wow, that's an interesting way to put it. Not mortgaging ourselves to them. You've added so much context and insight with this entire interview. Thank you so much for being my first guest. This is Aria Hughes signing out.
All right, that's an actual wrap.
That's an actual wrap. Thank you. Good.